Let's cross live down now to Canberra to catch up with Liberal MP Craig Kelly. Thanks for joining us again, Craig. First up, this idea that priests and clergy can get JobKeeper payments. Do you support that?
Chris, it's a bit of a stretch. Remember, the JobKeeper was designed to keep the employee and employer relationship together during the coronavirus period. So I don't really think there's a great chance of many of the priests or the clergy, leaving their church during this period. Also, look, I'm not Catholic, but the Catholic Church does have enormous resources, and maybe they would be, it'd be fitting not to put their JobKeeper claims in and use some of the resources if they've had a downturn in the receipts and donations from their churchgoers during this period.
Well, with a name like Kelly, not being a Catholic, that surprises me. I'm a Kenny. I was certainly raised a Catholic. And look, I've got a lot of time for the Catholic Church. I defend it against some irrational attacks at times. But what you're saying is crucial. The JobKeeper payment is to maintain the relationship between the employer and the employee. Now, these people aren't going to leave the church. The priests aren't going to run away because of the coronavirus pandemic. Right. So at the very least, if you thought that there was any payment required, it should be job seeker, or the normal dole payment. But I would have thought, they rely on the donations of their parishes, that they should still be able to rely on that.
Sure, look, Chris, you don't, as you said, they refused an interview, but and I don't want to be here defending them, but maybe they are using some of that money to, substitute some of their charitable work that they are doing. I don't think it's the priests are going out and spending that money having a good time sort of thing somehow.
Well, quite the opposite. I'm not suggesting anyone's living high on the hog. In fact, it's very clear from these reports that the church is saying to the priests, you're now getting, through JobKeeper, you're getting double what we used to give you. How about you voluntarily donate the rest back? So, but it just seems extraordinary that taxpayers are asked to tip into the churches here when they don't pay tax in the first place. And as you say, there are various other means they can sustain themselves.
Yeah, look, Chris, none of us down here in government are going to say that the JobKeeper scheme is 100% correct. This was brought in an emergency circumstances. There's always going to be some anomalies. I had constituents on the phone to me before the JobKeeper came in, absolutely in distress about what they were going to do. And they basically say, JobKeeper has kept them basically alive during this period. It's been a great innovation that we've put together. There's always a few hairs on it. There's a review coming up, I think, in the next week. And I think that's one of the things you'll see maybe change in the review.
Just to clarify that, then you're saying, or you're at least calling on your own government to make sure they review this JobKeeper for the clergy during this review that's going to be revealed this month?
Yeah, look, the review needs to look at everything with the JobKeeper. And as we said, this was brought in an enormous rush because there was great urgency to bring it in. There was always going to be some anomalies in it. This is one of those anomalies, and I think you might find that when the review is done, there may be some changes when it goes to some of these religious organisations.
Well, according to the letter from the Catholic Archbishop Anthony Fisher, the church lobbied for inclusion in JobKeeper. So they've actually deliberately put out their hand for this money, and someone in government, presumably Treasury, has said OK. Does that concern you?
Yeah, look, again, Chris, it depends. I think you look at it on the circumstances by circumstances. It depends on what the church is actually using this money for. I think you'd find a lot of churches, their donations at the collection plate, as we would call it, are substantially down. And that money that they would get in donations, you'd probably find the majority of it would, not go for infrastructure or for, luxurious expenses, but would go to help people that really need some assistance, really need some help, which is a lot of great work that our churches do.
But this is taxpayers' money that they are taking is being used for that. Money. The churches don't pay tax,
that is, Chris. And
taxpayers who are atheists or anti-religion know that some of their tax money is effectively subsidising these churches now.
Well, look, Chris, remember that the churches also do a lot of very good charitable work, helping a lot of the very disadvantaged people in our community.
Yes, but now, we know about government grants for that. This is JobKeeper payments.
Oh, yeah, but there's, Chris, also, I'm saying the collections that the church have, the income that the church receives throughout the year, a lot of that money goes into helping, the most, the people that really are down on their luck and really need some assistance. Now, if that money's fallen off the edge of a cliff because of the coronavirus, I think that if the churches are putting that money to use to helping people that are really struggling, I think this is why it needs to be looked on a case-by-case basis rather than sort of, ruling lines out with a thick black texter.
Yeah, well, you're doing a good job of trying to defend the church and the government at the same time, but you're obviously not comfortable with it. Do you think when this review is announced, when the changes are announced to JobKeeper, there needs to be a line drawn through this completely? No more JobKeeper payments for clergy?
I think I would like to say it for some of the rather large religious organisations, Chris, especially ones that have substantial resources. And if that money has been shown that it's just simply going to if the review shows that that's just been going into the church and not actually being used and put to good purposes, I think, yes, let's put a black line through it.